Hello, I am so excited that we are starting this new podcast that we're calling Vibe Coding with Steve and Gene. I'm Gene.
And I'm Steve.
Hey, yes, and our goal is to share with you what we've learned while writing the Vibe Coding book, which is coming out in 8 weeks. And so we've been making the very last changes to the manuscript. I think the changes are due today. and Steve, I was just when I was talking to you earlier today, I was telling you just how proud of this book I am. It's just I think it's so good. It was a fun book to write. It was a fun book to read, and I think it just brilliantly shows how much we've learned and shows how many adventures we've had. But most importantly, how every developer should be using vibe coding to do their work more easily and well, to help them solve problems that they have to face every day. So our goal is to record one of these every couple of days. We're going to jump into a section of the book each time and talk about some of those insights. A lot of it made into the book, some of it didn't, and so we'll be able to share that in this podcast. So, Steve, I think the first thing we should do is start with introductions. So, do you want to start by introducing yourself and tell us who you are?
Hey, folks, I'm Steve, and I've been working with Gene for the last year on trying to help shepherd the world into the age of AI-assisted coding. And to that end, Gene and I have been doing a whole bunch of that. Before that, I'm currently an engineer at SourceGraph working on SourceGraph AMP, which in my opinion is the coolest coding assistant out there right now. And not just because I'm working on it. And before that, I was at Grab, I was at Google, I was at Amazon. I've been in the industry for a long time doing a lot of things, but I've never had more fun than I'm having right now, Gene.
Yeah, and by the way, Steve, I've been an admirer of you for over a decade. I've been quoting you for over a decade. Foremost, your amazing memo that depicted the famous Jeff Bezos memo about thou shalt all teams henceforth communicate and coordinate only through APIs. No backdoors allowed. Anyone who doesn't do this will be fired, which famously landed you on the front page of the Wall Street Journal. So, can you walk us through your amazing career that from GeoWorks to Amazon to Google?
I mean, yeah, briefly, I started off programming in assembly language, okay, in the 90s, which is kind of relevant because the shift from assembly language into compilers, I got to watch it happen, and I got to watch everyone kick and scream and claw and poo-poo it and say compilers can't generate good code. I went through it. I was on their side, so no, I see the whole thing happening again. Then I got lucky and went to Amazon in 1998 and got to work, yeah, directly with Bezos and a bunch of other people there, really brilliant people. And I left in 2005 to go to Google because Google
And,
seems
and briefly,
to
like one of the coolest things is you were part of one of the first famous two pizza teams. Can you just to tell us a little bit about that and why it was important to Amazon at the time?
Yeah, not a lot of the stuff that I did at Amazon is super relevant to like vibe coding and what we do today, but that definitely was. Bezos invented the two pizza team, which to refresh your memory is a team that can be fed with roughly two pizzas. So it's a smallish team, right? And they have autonomy and they have experts on the team and they have a charter. They usually have an actual fitness function that they have to drive up and to the right, things that they're measuring. And but most importantly, they have this sort of agency to go get things done that are cross-cutting and cross-functional, which a lot of companies struggle with even today, almost 25 years later. Bezos came up with a solution that involved a team of experts, and I led one. I led the customer contact reduction team. We will talk about that in some of our episodes, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then yeah, on to Google where I built Grok, which was a knowledge engine for source code, which then I integrated into their code search system, which turned it into this amazing tool that actually inspired Bian Lu, one of the co-founders of SourceGraph, to go found SourceGraph because Google wouldn't release any of the stuff that we did externally
And by the way,
because Google doesn't get developers and Google doesn't get platforms.
it was famous within Google. It was like one of those beloved tools at Google. Just you gotta share why. It was like
Yeah,
ranked
I mean,
99%, like 99%.
Yeah, I mean, Google has a Google Guys survey, and there's also a developer tools Google Guys, and you have to like rate all the tools and everything every year. And yeah, for many years running, ours was far and away the most popular tool. And our metric for success was if Jeff Dean, if we kicked the power cord, would Jeff Dean get mad? And oh, we came so close. We went down once, and Sanjay complained. He's like the other half of Jeff Dean who built Google. So, so yeah, he was mad, and so that meant it was a success. But yeah, no, it was really kind of ahead of its time. Basically, it took the smarts out of an IDE and put it up in the cloud and scaled it. Pretty
Right,
cool.
because Google's code base is so large it wouldn't fit in an IDE, right? I mean,
Yeah. And boy, we're having to revisit all that stuff today, right? I mean, like
Yeah.
repo sizes and stuff. I'm sure we're going to talk a lot about it in our show. But these decisions that a lot of companies made maybe decades ago around mono repos versus lots of repos are coming back to kind of haunt them later on. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Oh yeah, no, so good. And so you and I finally met last June, and it was I gotta tell you, Steve, it's been so fun and rewarding. And the thing that we found out that we had in common was we both felt like there was something amazing happening in AI, especially for developers. And so that has been this last year has been one of the most fun adventures of my life, and I have never been having as much fun as now.
Same, same. And we neither one of us wanted to write a book. I mean, let's be real clear about it. You just finished writing a book, and nobody
Right.
ever writes a book after they just finished a book. And I just don't like writing books. I have a form of length that I like, and that's what I target. And it just, I mean, like, what? Think about it, like writing a book about something that's changing exponentially. I mean, it seems like the dumbest idea ever, right? Like everything
That's right.
you write would just be, pardon Gene, he's had pneumonia for the last few weeks. He's a
Yeah.
real trooper by doing this recording today.
Well, and but when you brought it up, I know it's like yeah, like usually when you get off of a book project, it takes a lot to get you interested in doing it. And when you mentioned it, I think my memory was like I was like, oh my gosh, what would it take for me to be involved? And so it's been such
Yeah.
a rewarding adventure. Yeah, yeah, I'll reciprocate by introducing myself. So I've been studying high performing technology organizations for 26 years, and I did my background is as a developer. I got my graduate degree in computer science and high speed compilers and networking. But for a long time, I became non technical. So I was the CTO and founder of a company called Tripwire. I was there for 13 years from 97 to 2010. And at a certain point, I wrote my last line of production code probably around 1999, and that was like in Visual Studio C++, right? And so I became one of those non-technical people. In fact, Andrew Flick, he has a word for it. He's like, yeah, he is senior director of marketing at Microsoft, and he calls it the PUI stack: PowerPoint, Word, and Excel. And that was me. But I fell back in love in coding in 2016, and so just the fact that but I really did believe my best days of coding were behind me, and so one of the parts of this adventure was this pair programming session that you and I did, and it changed my life. It actually convinced me that maybe my best days of programming were ahead of me, not behind me. And you can't go through something like that without having it genuinely change your perspectives on life. And so I think one of the things I'm most professionally proud of is researching kind of what makes developers productive. How do you measure the effectiveness of DevOps initiatives? And so I worked with Jez Humble, who wrote the continuous delivery book, and Dr. Nicole Forsgren, and we did the state of DevOps research. So that was a cross-population study that spanned over 36,000 respondents with the goal of understanding kind of what high performers look like and what are the practices, cultural norms, architectural practices that enable high performance. And so that's what popularized what is now called the DORA metrics. You can actually see them in a lot of tools now: deployment frequency, code deployment lead time, change success rate, mean time to repair. So I can talk a little bit more about that. Yeah, but yeah, I've written books like the Phoenix Project, DevOps Handbook, Accelerate, Unicorn Project, Wanting the Winning Organization. And so when Steve mentioned that the possibility of writing a book, I found myself unexpectedly super excited, and the idea of seeing if we can kind of distill some of those principles, that should survive. Typically, you talk about principles transcending practices, and maybe done right, we could actually write something that would last a couple of years, right? Even in a fast-moving field. And I just having read the book a couple of times in the last couple of weeks, oh my gosh, I really do think we achieved it, as well as creating a book that's fun and disarming, and hopefully convinces people that developers that this vibe coding is for everybody, even for those of you who might be skeptical or might have had some initial bad experiences. So, Steve, I
So,
think
so Gene, were there any particular experiences that you had that switched you from not wanting to write a book because you just
yeah,
finished one to wanting to write this book? Why did we write this book, Gene?
yeah. In fact, before we go there, I just want to start with the definition. Like, what is vibe coding? And I love this definition that we just say it's simply anytime that you are not writing code by hand. Instead, you're working with an AI right? You're saying what needs to be done. The AI is doing the code generation, and we move back into a more supervisory and oversight perspective. But as you put it, right, just because you're a head chef and you're not slicing every vegetable or searing every steak, it's your kitchen, your Michelin stars. You are ultimately responsible for everything, that gets committed in your name, that comes out of the kitchen, that gets served to customers. And one of the people that we talk about a lot in the book is Dr. Eric Meyer, famous for his probably one of the top 10 computer programming languages people, pioneering in not just Haskell, but he did C Sharp. He was part of helping advance Visual Basic at Facebook Meta. He was brought in to build a hack programming language, to bring strong typing to PHP and make it compiled and run fast. And they rolled it out in like less than a year. So it's just astonishing. And he said, we are likely the last generation of developers who will write code by hand. So let's have fun doing it. And I think we were both moved by that quote.
Yeah, we both went through sort of a big transformation in the last year, right? From writing code by hand to not writing code by hand anymore.
Yeah.
It was that transformation that ultimately led us to writing the book because we were trying to tell people about it and it's too much to tell. I mean, like it's a completely different way of working. We had discovered it was a discovery, not an invention, right?
Yeah.
And we were figuring out, how does it work? How does it work to use a fundamentally unreliable AI that everybody complains about getting things wrong all the time? How do you use that rigorously as an engineer to produce deterministic, reliable outcomes?
Yeah.
That's what we wrote our book about. And it's not easy. And it's why we wound up with a 300-page book.
Yeah. 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 And so
But a good one.
yeah, that's right. Yeah. And so, for this episode, I chose a preface to be the section that I found moving, reading it again. And, you asked, was there a moment that changed my life? And yes, Steve, there were several. But for this one, I'll choose the pair programming session that we did together in August. So we met in June, and you spoke at the conference that I run called the Enterprise Technology Leadership Summit. That's what it used to be called the DevOps Enterprise Summit. And I'm just going to share my screen so people can see what I'm referring to here. So, for the last 15 years, basically as long as I've had an iPhone, every time I listen to a lot of YouTube videos and podcasts. And so every time I hear something interesting, I take a screenshot of it, right? In the hopes that I'll go back someday and listen to it again, maybe write about it, do some further research. But I have 6,000 screenshots on my phone, and I've probably gone back maybe a handful of times. Just because it's so flipping difficult. And so, way back when, I was starting to use ChatGPT, especially when I got vision capabilities, to grab these screenshots and it could actually extract a playtime and an episode name and a podcast name, accurately. But it was another challenge to do it for these YouTube videos where, there's no playtime. You only have a red progress bar. And so I remember ChatGPT in January 2024, I actually got it to write a function to analyze the screenshot and would actually look for the progress bar and it will calculate, what percentage complete that was. And so that worked the first time using the Java bitmap libraries that I had seen but never used. The last time I wrote anything bitmap related was 1997, using the Microsoft Foundation class library. So, that was amazing. But that doesn't hold a candle to the session that we did in September, where you made this generous offer to spend 2 hours with me. And, the question became, what do I want to build? And for me, it was obvious. It was like, what I would like to do is take these screenshots where I have a timestamp. I'll go download the YouTube video. I'll go get the transcript. But what I want is to create video excerpts like, you see on, social media, where I could actually excerpt the clip. I could just post a clip. I had a kind of a vague outline of a plan, right? It's like, okay, I have the YouTube video. I want to extract the segment using FFmpeg, of which I've used, 10, 20 times. And, I can't remember any of the command line arguments. I can write them, but I certainly can't read them. This would be, a step above any sort of level of sophistication that I used before. And then I want to take that video and put the captions in, the transcript, overlay it, just like the fancy social media people do, and then post those videos. And so what was amazing is, and I chose Dr. Eric Meyer's talk as our first video. And I put together a slide deck where in 47 minutes, we got it working. using basically, let's see here, 6, 7 prompts, iterating through it. And, actually it takes longer to generate the presentation describing what I did than to actually do it. But the output was this Twitter thread where I described every highlight of that Eric Meyer talk. And the high point for me, Steve, was that when I posted it, I got like 250,000 views. And the best part was Eric Meyer responding saying, "Wow, looks amazing. Thanks for doing this. It feels much faster to grasp the big idea than watching the whole talk, even at 2x speed." And so, Steve, I got to tell you, that changed my life, because to go from, I could maybe do it in a couple of days, but never actually doing it because maybe the juice isn't worth the squeeze, this dread about, dealing with FFmpeg, to actually getting it done in less than an hour, Steve, that changed everything for me. And I can't tell you how many things I've programmed and written since then. And that legitimately changed my life.
It's safe to say it was a vibe coding session before vibe coding even had a name.
That's true, right? That predated the famous Dr. Andre Karpathy quote by 3 months, which is like a decade in AI times. And Steve, I got to tell you, what was so cool about watching that video is the whole time, you're coaching me. You're and holding my feet to the fire, because I think if I had hit a specific hurdle in FFmpeg, if it weren't for you, I might have. If it weren't for you saying you can do it, I think I might have given up. But just the line that I love most is like, "Gene, you're doing an awful lot of typing. Stop typing and get the AI to write it for you." And it just, at a certain point, it clicks, right? It's like, okay, get the AI to do the heavy lifting.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I certainly had a similar moment of my own, Gene. I
Totally.
it wasn't even that long ago. Gosh, it was only a couple of maybe 6 or 8 weeks ago. So we talked about it in the book, but it was late in the book. So even though it made it into the preface, it was like we had already been writing the book. So in other words, like, I mean, just to put this story in context, I mean, we had already like done a bunch of vibe coding for like, I don't know, 8 months or more.
Yeah.
We'd already researched the theory of it. We already thought we knew a lot about it. Then coding agents came out in February with Claude Code, and then later Source Graph AMP, and then Codex from OpenAI, and
And now Gemini CLI, fresh hot off the press.
Amazon Q Developer. I mean, there's actually quite a few of them now. And that actually completely changed our book because we realized that was the future, and we had to make sure the book covered that. But beautifully enough, the timeless principles that we had chosen to talk about up till then actually still applied to the agentic
Yes.
stuff. And so yeah, we were doing agentic coding. So then I thought I knew it all, right? But I'm busy like coding along on this graphical client. It's a game client to replace all my other clients, which are in a bunch of different languages, and I hate them all. And right, who wants Objective C? And so like I want to replace them all with like one, Node client or Flutter client or whatever. Still haven't made up my mind yet, but the important thing was I wanted the AI to do it. I wanted to vibe code the whole thing. It's got plenty of examples to look at, so I can just, wave my hand and tell it what I want, right? And it would be like, okay, here's some code. I made the code. Take a look at it. Does it work? And I'd be like, no, no, the button's in the wrong place. And it would go grind, 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 grind. Okay, how about now? And I'd be like, no. So I'm not coding, but I'm also like, I'm its eyes,
Yeah.
right? And my colleague hears about this and goes, well, why don't you just turn on Puppeteer MCP server? And I'm like, well, what's that? And he's like, well, so MCP is a protocol from Anthropic that lets your AI talk to tools. Okay. And Puppeteer is a tool that lets you talk to browsers. And since my client is in a browser and by talk to it, you can take screenshots of it and you can remote control it, which means you've got hands and eyes, right? Through Puppeteer. Good name. And so I was like, all right, well, I'll try it. So I turned it on, which was like a config setting. And then I like said, okay, can you try now with Puppeteer NCP server? And oh yeah, sure, I can do that. And it started popping up like the client, right, in Electron and making changes. And then it would like, it would disappear before I even noticed what happened. And it would be like, oh, I noticed there was a problem with that button, so we're going to fix it. And then it would go, oh, look, the button's not even wired up to anything. Let's fix that. And it kept flashing at me. And it was like watching a stop motion, right? It was like, right. I was like, what's happening? And I started to just kind of melt. I was just, oh my God, I was in the middle of it the whole time, right? I seriously, all these months, it had degenerated into a chat conversation, right? And I realized that these things could be left alone and go off and just run a million miles an hour. It was programming easily 100 times faster than I could at
Right.
that
And so
particular
before it looked
task.
like, move this button. that's not right. Here, do
which
this,
was
do
which
that.
was already 10 times faster than I had been going before because it would generate the code for me, but then it would be wrong and I'd have to be in the middle. It literally went up to 100 times faster. It's just cranking through stuff. I mean, I'm slow at web programming, so I don't know if I could hit 100x on like back end stuff, but still, it's a huge. It's a non-trivial speed up, and that, folks, is why we're writing this book because you can get that speed up too, and in time you will.
Yeah, and so that was I remember that in January, and I remember you texting me about it because you were so excited about that. I think you said I was like the guy who was so proud to have a car, but you were pushing around the neighborhood. You didn't actually realize you could actually get in the seat and drive it, right?
Right. Like I was so proud of my new car. I'd never turned it on.
Yeah,
And it makes you wonder what else they're capable of, right? I mean, like they can use any tool. They can use your IDE, which to me means that you're not going to be using your IDE because if the AI is more effective at it, then what you should be using is not the IDE, but a different kind of IDE that
yeah,
manages the AIs, right? So
yeah,
yeah,
totally. In fact, I just started playing with that integration in Claude Code where it actually knows exactly where your cursor is, exactly where your selection is, and it's actually injecting it. I mean,
this whole talk is going to seem so old-fashioned in about 8 months when
yeah,
everybody,
I know. But
right?
it's just amazing. You're talking about like these uncharted frontiers where we just don't know what coding is going to look like or what our ideal development environment is going to look like. But Steve, I love that story, and you sort of glossed over, kind of what this client is and what the bigger system is. And for me, when I read the preface, it struck me as really profound because you described an even bigger moment that about your Wyvern journey. This game is called Wyvern. You started 35 years ago. This was a labor of love that you started before Amazon. So can you tell us a little bit about that and maybe why you gave up on it, which I think is something that will resonate with so many of us.
Yeah, sure. I mean, look, I tried to make the best game in the world, and I made a game that a lot of people loved. I'll tell you that. Close to 250,000 people. We've had close to 100 contributors to it. It's been a pretty buzzing game for the last 30 years.
It
Not
won a
right
bunch of
now so much.
awards.
It's won a
Yeah,
bunch of awards. It's been around, right? It's on Steam, it's on Android, it's on iOS, etc. And right now it's kind of moribund because I've been very busy with this stuff,
yeah.
right? But it is going to be experiencing a glorious revival because of what Gene just mentioned, which is that I realized, with tears in my eyes practically, that I was gonna, because I had kind of hung up my hat, right? I was like, oh, okay, I'm done with this. And it was because
Yeah.
after 30 years, the environment set up and dealing with config changes, dealing with Google Cloud breaking stuff all the time. I mean, like, right, and Android APIs and everything getting deprecated all the time. It's this treadmill, and being a developer is just no fun. And my code base got, giant,
3
millions
million
of
lines
lines
of
of
code configuration.
code, and it's like, at some point it was like I had an infinite backlog of work. I looked at the backlog, I added it all up, and I'm like, this is 100 years of work. Like, I give up. Like no mas, right?
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, yeah, once I saw that puppeteer thing going, zzz, working 100 times faster than me, I was doing some calculations like, wait a minute, 100 years of work is now 1 year of work. And not exactly, it's not going to map, but I mean, it's probably 3 or 4 years of work to get through that backlog that used to be 100 years.
Right.
That's a big deal. And so I was like, oh, wow, it's back on the table again. I mean, like at our age, like we have to sort of be selective and careful about what projects we choose to work on because we only have, like we like to say, so many 5-year projects left in us, right? A lot of projects in the old days were 5-year projects, right? But now, I mean, that's just that whole line of thinking is just gone, just
Yeah.
evaporated, right? It's at this point, all of my projects are back on the table. Everything I
Yeah.
ever wanted to do, make Emacs intelligent, make my game work great, all the side projects, all the main projects, it's all actually happening right now. If I shared my screen with you, you'd see 4 agents running, and they're all working on various work streams for me. I mean,
Yeah,
this
and
is the
the part
life.
that almost brought a tear to my eye was we said after that puppeteer experience, you couldn't sleep because all those goals, dreams, and aspirations that you had sort of put on back burner suddenly got resurrected. That you saw a route to get there. And if I remember correctly, Steve, you said you even told your doctor some years ago that you can't code anymore.
Not
that
that long ago. No, it was like in January. I was like, yeah, I'm not coding anymore. I just don't really have it in me, I'm telling him, because we're talking, about doctor stuff and whatever. And it's like I see him a month later, and I'm like, guess what? I stayed up till 2 a.m. coding. I've written more code than ever before. He's just laughing at me. He's like, why? I'm like, AI, which
yeah.
may not be great news for doctors, but boy, it sure is good for programmers.
Yeah, and I can absolutely relate to that. And I think that thing that you said was like, yeah, You may get to a certain point in your life where you have to be so picky about which 5-year projects you work on because you only have so many of those left. Oh my gosh. I mean, I thought about that for days. I was like, oh my gosh, what a profound statement. But also the nature that vibe coding is changing everything, right? Year-long projects become potentially a month-long projects become a week. And that screenshot to excerpt generator was an example of that. Maybe 2-3 days turned into an hour. And that's why it was so life-changing for me. Yeah, so we'll talk about so many of these topics in more details in future episodes. So, at first we'll be spending some time talking about part 1, which is all about kind of why vibe coding matters, and part 2 is all about the theory of how these crazy AI things work, and your first vibe coding steps. Part 3 is about the tools and practices. We told the good parts of the story, and there is a dark side to this. Vibe coding can go terribly wrong. We made plenty of mistakes where we wrecked the car, and so we read about that. But the good news is that if you can double down on some engineering instincts around modularity and fast feedback loops, and just making sure that we're good at learning, we can do this safely by modifying our inner, middle, and outer development loops. Which things we need to keep in mind every couple seconds to hours. The middle loop is middle hours to days, and then the outer loop is days to weeks. And then part 4 is going big. How do we explore what happens when every developer is managing a team of agents? Now you have teams with developers all doing this thing and teams of teams doing that. Let's talk about how organizations are coping with that and just opportunities and risks. And then we'll talk about so many of the adventures that we've had in the writing of this book. And so, Steve, I'm super excited to do this with you.
Yeah, super excited. We're going to have tons and tons of episodes. We have practically an infinite amount of stuff to talk about, and I think you're going to find that there's a lot of utility in it, right? We've put a lot of thought into it. It's not just us. We worked with, gosh, like a dozen other people, like Luke Burton at NVIDIA, and many other people who. This book is it's a culmination of all of our thinking around vibe coding and the kind of latest of what we learned, and we are really, really excited to share it with you.
Absolutely. So the vibe coding book is available for pre-order on Amazon, and we will be covering so many great things in the episodes to come. Thanks a lot, Steve, and we'll catch you all in the next episode.
See y'all next time.